12 new launches, 2 of which I'm looking to buy with my own money, and a few that I wouldn't even touch even if you paid me. This is the second half 2026 Ultimate Guide to New Launches, and I think that for the next 6 months, it will present a good window of opportunity that we have not seen in over a year, but only if you know what are the right ones to go for. Hi everybody, my name is William from Own This Property and welcome back to the channel. It's time for our mid-year tradition, the second half of 2026 Ultimate Guide to New Launches. In this video, I'll take you through 3 parts. The first is taking stock of what has happened, what has sold, what has flopped. The second is I'll share with you all the rankings of the upcoming launches this year. And the third is we will look at the question all the buyers are asking right now, is this the right time to buy? So I've ranked every single one from the best to the worst, no filter, pure analysis, 2 of which I might be looking to put my own money in this year. So let's go. And real quick before we start, over 80% of viewers have not subscribed to the channel. And if you felt that any of my videos over the years have helped you make a more informed decision, just hit the subscribe button. Every single one of them means a lot to me and will keep me motivated to create more videos like this. And as always please do your own due diligence. Here are the 9 launches that has happened in the first half of this year, and the market has held up pretty well. If you take a look at the OCR and ECs, they have been very strong. Rivel 100% sold, Pinery 94%, Tengah Gardens 99%. So this flew off the shelves, which tells us that the OCR in the last quarter has been very good. In the CCR, the best performer was River Modern, 93% sold. And of course, we just had the launch of Vela Bay, setting a new benchmark prices in the OCR, $2,869 per square feet on average. But the one that sticks out for the wrong reasons, Nara Residences, only 37% sold. And if you follow my earlier guides, I actually already shared my conviction why I ranked this as the lowest ranked C. Lack of MRT, no real connectivity, a lot of competition in the area. And I think that the data and now the market has also proven my conviction right. So the lesson for the first half has been pretty simple. A lot of OCR demand, especially for those with the MRT. I think that this theme of having MRT, HDB upgraded demand, that connectivity, this theme will continue to play into the second half of 2026. If you put the first half 2025 and 2026 side by side, you'll notice that in the first half of 2025, we had 11 launches, over 5,400 units. And this year, we actually had fewer launches, just 9 at about 4,850 units. So that's 800 units difference, easily about 2 good sized developments that were launched fewer than 2025. But here's the key. I don't think that this is a demand story. It's actually more of like a supply story, right? Because generally, there are buyers out there. Even though there are fewer projects launched in the first half of this year, you can see that buyers are not disappearing because the take-up rate is still very strong. Keep that in mind because this sets us up beautifully for the second half of this year. There's going to be more supply coming up. Buyers are waiting and developers, they have to compete, which generally mean that buyers will get a better deal. And here's the menu for the second half, 12 launches, and this is where it gets exciting. I've laid them out by estimated launch order, and on the far right also my ranking. So just scan these rankings for a second. We got 2 S-rank properties, a couple of A+, and some of the ECs I've actually upgraded them, and this is due to a new government rule. More on that in the later part of the video. But please don't just screenshot this and run with it because this lacks the nuances, right? This is a good overview of the quality of the project, but ultimately your entry price and exit is the one that will make you the money. So that's where I come in to help my clients. And comparing the second half of last year versus this year, I think context really matters because second half of last year was really monster, right? You got 14 launches, 7,200 units. You got big developments launching, Zion Grand, River Green, Penry Faber, they all were more than 90% sold. But for the second half of this year, there's actually fewer launches, just 12 with a total of about 6,800 units. So note that even though we have fewer launches coming up, we might actually have even lower than this number stated here because things like Trunk Grove, Upper Thomson and Dorset, they are launching at the tail end, but I haven't really heard much about it. It might actually only be launched in the first quarter of next year, 2027. But the 2 that sticks out the most, we have Thomson Reserve, which I will be covering in this video. Quick recap of how I rank all these developments. For anyone new there are 4 factors that we look at. We look at quality, we look at location, the upside potential, and exit strategy. So I'll weigh all of these 4 factors and rank them from S being the best to C being the worst. And if you want the full deck of all the new launches this year as well as the upcoming supply in 2027, you can fill up the Google form link below and I'll be happy to send the PDF to you. So here's the full board at a glance, sorted quarter by quarter by the tier and also color coded into the OCR, RCR and CCR. And a few things to note is that yes, Thomson Reserve sits at the top S rank. That's probably one of my top picks for the second half of this year along with Trunk Grove. I'll personally share with you why later. The fourth quarter ECs, we also have upgraded Woodlands Drive 17 from A+ to S. But just notice visually, right, that in 2026, you can actually see that there are more new launches clustered towards the second half of this year compared to the first half of this year. Don't worry about absorbing all of this. I'll be guiding you through project by project. So first up, let's start with Lentor Gardens launching soon. Lentor Gardens residences will be the first to kick off the second half. Previews are going to start the 4th of July. There's going to be 499 residential units divided by Kingsford and it's about 400 plus meters away from Lentor MRT. There might be 1 km of Anderson, but the developer has not confirmed that so far. But here's the thing that matters the most, the numbers, right? So Kingsford bought this land at $920 per square foot PPR. And this is the telling part, right? Because the tender only drew 2 bids. Kingsford won the bid by just 1.66%, higher than the runner-up, which is the big boy over there, Hong Leong. So this wasn't like an overly contested, very aggressive bid. Kingsford definitely walked away with a very good price land because just a few months later, we all know that the next plot was way above $1,000 per square feet. So this is going to be the 7th project in Lentor in about 4 years. The obvious question, is there oversupply? Let me address that key concern of yours now. Because I know when I say the word Lentor, a lot of you will be like saying like, wow, Lentor, oversupply, very hard to sell next time, right? But the data does not lie. So if you take a look at the neighbors around there, it's genuinely impressive because nearly 3,000 units, mostly of them have been sold. We only left with a handful of units at Hillock Green and Lentoria. This once again validated my conviction, which I've done in my ultimate guide to Lentor properties. You can check out the link above. I've stated that the 2 lowest ranked property, the 2 not so good properties, which is Hillock Green and Lentoria, they're the only ones that have not sold out so far. But coming back over here, I think that the oversupply fear, it has been definitely debunked. Lentor Modern has now entered the resale market and so far it has achieved very expectable 4.4% annualized returns for the first owners. Lentor Hills is going to be next, the subsale will be happening soon, and based on the indicative pricing, I think that a lot of the first owners will be sitting on about 5% annualized returns. For a brand new township like this, I think that now we can confidently say that there is a proven track record. Onto the product, this is going to be a huge, if not the biggest development after Lentor mentioned. Very sizable and you have about 3 blocks and interestingly, the only development that has strata landed. When was the last time that we saw strata landed in a new launch? Is by Kingsford lah. That was Normanton Park. But the unique mix, if you see over here, it definitely leans towards own stay. I like that's just 50-50 split, right, between small and large units. There's also a childcare center. 314 car park lot, so 63%, but that's okay I think because we have near MRT and of course the land being so big, you expect full facilities which includes a tennis court. The 3 USPs for Lentor Gardens that stand out is firstly, this is the only non-PPVC development. So PPVC is like the Lego stacking, right? So this is the only development that allows you to hack the walls so you can configure the layout to however you like. The second is that this is a development that has the most park-facing units. It will hug around the Hillock Park. So you get unblocked views. These are the things that will also attract the emotional buyer when you want to sell next time. And third, I think very important for the future exit is that the layouts are harmonized. So you get efficient layouts, no aircon space. So for family buyers, right, if we just reference, if let's say they're going to launch at about $2,350 per square feet, versus you get a $2,500 per square foot resale, let's say a Lentor Hills or Lentor Modern, that is not harmonized, I think that there's a very good price protection over here. So overall positive, but I have to raise one red flag. And the red flag is that, of course, this is not within 1 km of St. Nick's, and we are also further away from the MRT. Not that it matters, it's like maybe only a 1 to 2 minute difference, but it is further away from the MRT. Overall, I think the quality is good. You got full facilities, so there's a tick mark location. MRT, now the mall is already open. 1 km to Anderson is still to be confirmed. And on the upside, I think the whole Lentor transformation is already proven. And I think that if you take a look at the buyers who are buying Lentor area, a huge chunk of them are actually HDB upgraders. They are coming down from the north. And you all know that there's still a lot more BTOs that will reach the MOP in the Woodlands, Canberra, Punggol areas that will definitely consider Lentor as an area to upgrade to. So I think that this makes Lentor Gardens a genuinely good, solid product. Not positives everywhere, but it does get a respectable B+. And just to share that I used to live down the road in Yio Chu Kang area, and I've seen how Lentor has really transformed from just like an area of forest to now the proven Lentor township with a shopping mall that it is today. So I think that we, myself included, we owe Lentor an apology. And so what if Lentor Gardens does not have that 1 km to St. Nick's, right? Because you are trading away, you don't have to pay that price premium for the school, so you get a lower entry price relative to resale in the area. Ultimately, entry price dictates future profits the most. And because this is the first to preview on the 4th of July, if you're someone looking to buy into this area or you're upgrading into the area and want to really understand step by step what are the ones to buy, what to avoid, then you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. I'll be happy to run through with you because it's very important to prep first before entering the show flat on the 4th of July. Next, we are transporting from OCR all the way into the prime CCR, and this is Dunearn House previewing on the 17th of July. 380 units developed by the reputable Tro, Frasers, Sequoia and CSE Land. We are about 470 meters away from 6th Avenue MRT and also 650 meters away from the upcoming Turf City MRT. So 1 km to Methodist Girls' School. This is based on my own measurements, so to be confirmed by the developer. Now, the developer got the land at $1,410 per square feet. I'm estimating the prices to be about $3,000, $3,001 per square feet on average. And I think this conviction behind the developers are very, very apparent over here. This tender drew 9 bids, the most of any CCR site since Cascaden Road back in 2018. And the top bid at the runner-up by only 4%, so relatively good and competitive pricing over here. Especially if we consider next door to Dunearn House, Wing Tai won the land at $1,625 per square feet PPR. That is over 15% higher than the land cost of Dunearn House. But here's what makes it interesting. This is the first mover in the Turf City transformation, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Take a look at the big picture. Turf City transformation. When was the last time that the government actually revamped, rebuilt, and created a new neighborhood town in prime CCR Bukit Timah, right? It never ever happens. And this whole area is slated to have about 15,000 to 20,000 new private and public homes. Considering that Wing Tai paid over 15% more than Dunearn House. So same area, side by side, higher land costs, just months later. That's the clearest possible signal that Dunearn House is the first mover that got in at a relatively good price. But this can also be a double-edged sword. And I'll be honest, it is a first mover in terms of price, but it can also be a first mover disadvantage when it comes to a quick flip, right? Because the transformation is still a decade away to reach that fruition. On to the site plan, we have a key USP over here, 2 blocks that are 19 stories, full facilities, tennis court, and Dunearn House compared to the upcoming plot. And also if you take a look at the resale over there, this will be the only development that has 19 stories. This will be the highest development in the area. And I've done a few resale transactions in the area. The problem is that a lot of these developments in the area, why are they low rise, is because of GCB clusters nearby or maybe some sensitive landed homes nearby. And of course, with a lower rise development, it tends to have lower transaction volume, which ultimately would affect your profits down the road. So Dunearn House will not have this problem next time. In terms of the unit mix, 46% 2 bedrooms, 54% 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms. So definitely this is a definition of a good own stay centric development. Large units are exactly the type of units that are in undersupply in the area right now. But very important, let's talk value. And because I already have some of the floor plans over here, let's analyze Dunearn House floor plans against the nearest resale comparable, which is 4th Avenue Residences. So firstly, let's take a look at 2-bed 2-bath. This is where we really see the harmonization effect in play, because 4th Avenue Residences, the 2-bed 2-bath, 710 square feet, you can see that awkward open concept kitchen. And take a look at Dunearn House at just 667 square feet. It packs not just that, but an additional study area. And take a look, naturally ventilated toilets and kitchen. How rare is it to have a 2-bed 2-bath plus study with windows? So assuming that Dunearn transacts at about $2,900 per square feet, you can see the value of buying this at about 1.934 million, when 4th Avenue has already transacted at about 1.91 or more. Secondly, we take a look at the 3-bedroom plus study layout. 4th Avenue, it seems massive on paper, 1,109 square feet, but again, take a look at the floor plan. All that space went into this additional balcony at the master bedroom, versus Dunearn House, looks very small on paper, 947 square feet, but not only do you get a home shelter, but you also get a study area. And because these stacks are facing the good views on the 19-story blocks, so I'm assuming a slightly higher PSF here, $3,100 per square feet, but that still only works out to be about $2.936 million. That's almost $200,000 price gap to 4th Avenue Residences that's already transacted at $3.159 million. So people will go and see, wow, Bukit Timah, the resale quite bad, right? But I think that 4th Avenue isn't a good representation of the area. It sits on a very awkward sized and shaped land plot, triangular. So the block to block distance tends to be very, very close, very, very dense, and there's a lot of poor facing units over there. Add to the fact that the layouts are not fantastic over here, it did in fact affect the resale performance. But in the same area, the ones with the right attributes, they have performed very well in the resale market. If you take a look at Tesserina, Maplewoods, the Nexus in the resale over there, they have performed very well, close to 5% annualized returns on average. So the key lesson that we can take away from here is to ask ourselves, does Dunearn House have the right attributes in terms of the site plan, the layouts? Is it in the area with good resale performance? And is it an own-stay-centric development? And I think that Dunearn House definitely does tick yes for these 3 key questions. In summary, the quality over here, pretty good. Track record is good, full facilities, strong harmonized layouts. The location, we have MRT now, another future MRT in Turf City. So there will be decent amenities down the road. And you have, of course, 1 km to Methodist Girls' School. The upside is we are the first mover in the Turf City transformation. It might also be a disadvantage as shared. And for the exit strategy, I think that genuinely there is a low entry price compared to other properties in the Bukit Timah area. And there is a significant undersupply of larger units over there. The negatives apart from the first mover disadvantage, I think that ultimately this is still a longer holding period because the transformation would take time to bear fruit. I think that the negative can also be kind of counterbalanced, right? Because this property has 1 km to Methodist Girls' School. So it will at least keep prices and this property in good demand. It's not like you're going to sit on a dead asset once the property has TOP. And I can share from experience, I serve a few buyers looking at properties in that area, and I can really feel their pain. So we go and look at resale. Firstly, there's not a lot of resale. The seller is asking like significantly higher than the last transacted. And they go and look at the freehold properties and like, yeah, I'm priced out at William. And that's the reality of on the ground, is that there's no cheap or good resale properties in the area. And I think that Dunearn House really does fill in that gap over there. It signifies a new era of harmonized, livable developments in the area. So it's a rare opportunity, I think, for aspirational Singaporean buyers, or if you're looking to buy for that 1 km to MGS. And hence, I rate Dunearn House an A rank. Bukit Timah pricing means that the quantum over here is not low. So getting the right stack, not overpaying, and making sure that your finances are safe is what really matters. So if you're keen to understand how your finances are customized to your own personal situation, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp and I'll be happy to run through more with you. Moving to the west, and one of my rare favorites in the west this year, this is Lucerne Grand by CDL. There's going to be 570 units, and this is literally doorstep to Lakeside MRT. It is also within 1 km of many schools. Most notably, Rulang is a popular school. And I remember when the news came out, $1,132 per square feet PPR. And the bidding tells you how convinced the developers were. CDL bid out 5 others, paying 10% more above the second highest. And That made it the second highest OCR land sale after Bayshore. So I'm estimating about $2,500 per square feet on average, but wow, Jurong 2005. I think the price doesn't tell you the full story because what's important is actually to analyze what's happening around this development instead. Quick note on the commercial component is 1,000 square meters, of which 700 square meters has been earmarked for supermarket, so you don't have to worry about your daily convenience. To summarize it based on our framework, I think that the quality, of course you have a good developer, it's a good size development. The location, unbeatable, right? Directly next to Lakeside MRT. But this area is also a problem whereby the train tracks are above ground. So you will have some units that might be facing the track. You might be affected by some track noise, so do be wary of that. One came to several schools, and although the area, it doesn't have a big mall at the moment. In terms of the upside, the resale performance over there is very strong in the Lakeside cluster. Plus, we have the entire Jurong Lake District transformation. So all things considered, I think that Lucerne Grand is a very solid pick, especially in the west this year, and I give it an A+. Enough has been shared and analysed about Jurong Lake District transformation by now, but what I really wanted to share with you is how it will actually impact resale buyer behaviour next time. So 60,000 homes in the area, you will be within 10 minutes walk to an MRT. This huge increase in connectivity would improve, especially in the west, whereby I think for the longest of time, it has suffered from a transport discount to prices. So going forward with this transport discount being eroded away, I think it will only help with prices going forward. And I think that the smartest way to position yourself for the Jurong Lake District transformation is not to actually buy Jurong East, your Jayden, your JKW. It has already priced in all this transformation. The smarter way is to actually still being able to capture that thousands of jobs in the area, but in a more residential setting, and that's exactly what Lakeside is to me. This is not just a hunch, it's backed up by data. OCR buyers, yes, they like MRT, yes, they like schools, but most importantly, they value livability the most. What I've done is all the tedious groundwork that nobody does. This is analyzing over 500 condos, thousands of transactions, and looking at 50 key factors such as their age, tenure, unit mix, MRT schools, profitability and rentability. This is the exact data set that only I have, and I use it to help my buyers. And most recently, I actually shared with them, they were almost going to commit to buying Jayden, but I shared with them the data, and we are actually looking at a lakeside property instead. So if you wish to see how I use this exact analysis and data set to help my clients, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp, and I can run through specific to your requirements like your location, the budget, to find out and pinpoint the properties to buy. Moving on to a very niche play, this is Amberwood at Holland by Simlian, previewing around the middle of September. Just 212 units, so a pretty small development, low rise, 6 stories. It's going to be about 600 meters away from King Albert Park MRT, and it's also within 1 km of Methodist Girls' School. The land costs $1,432 per square foot PPR. I'm estimating an average of about $3,001 plus per square feet. And since your memory might be fresh, with a land cost of $1,400 plus per square feet, it's very similar to Dunearn House in a very similar area. So you'll be the judge to see which is the better buy. Let me share with you my analysis. Over here, you will see that this is still a niche development. Whenever you see marketing materials use the word exclusive, you know that it's going to be like a low-rise, small development. But it's very clear what Simlian's strategy is over here. There is not going to be any 1 or 2 bedroom units over here. Units actually start from 3 bedroom, and you have massive 1,300 to 1,500 square feet units. So this is definitely geared towards very own stay luxury living. But here's the context that matters. If you take a look at the picture over here, Amberwood is the first mover in the brand new Holland Plain precinct. And Simlian was so convinced, right? They bid 5 bidders and they bid 22% higher than the second place person. So that's an unusually wide gap. Usually you think about price gaps, maybe high range would be just 10%. So bidding 22% higher, either Simlian is super convinced, right? High conviction of this area, or it might actually be a red flag that they bidded too aggressively. But they didn't stop there, so they might actually be very convinced because they actually won the plot directly next to us. That's about 280 units around the same price, $1,400 plus per square foot PPR. And if you take a look at the URA master plan picture over here, in total 8 residential parcels earmarked already. And look at an even larger plots of land surrounding it. So that's currently where Clementi Forest is. They are all residential land subject to detailed planning. Now the positive here, of course, we got King Albert Park Interchange. It's part of the Cross Island Line Phase 2, expected to complete around 2032. But when I look at this picture, very similar the picture, the shape to Lentor, right? But now it's in the CCR. So the long-term vision, I think, is going to be there. It's going to be substantial. But notice that unlike Lentor, whereby when the property is completed, the MRT is already there. So this is, of course, a more prime and atas location, and the connectivity of King Albert Park MRT is still a distance away. To summarize, based on the framework, quality-wise, it's not perfect because of the smaller size. Location, there is going to be an MRT interchange coming up soon. 1 km to Methodist Girls' School is always a positive, but the negatives are real. It is the furthest of the plots over there to King Albert Park MRT, and it also lacks a walking distance to amenities right now. And I also do have to share honestly that it sits next to the Columbarium, so that might be a hard no for some buyers out there. In terms of the upside, we are the first mover in the Holland Plain precinct. But the exit, this is a low density, very exclusive area surrounded by landed. So we are not appealing to HDB upgraders over here. We are more of appealing to a niche, more luxury own stay buyer pool. I do have a client who actually bought 6th Avenue Residences, which is nearby. And that's kind of the on-the-ground reality, right? There are buyers like that out there that prioritizes things that maybe you do not prioritize. They actually like low density. They don't really need the MRT. So that niche is still a pretty small group of buyers, and for that reason, in terms of the exit strategy, I do have to rate Amberwood slightly lower with B. And lastly, there's also going to be a third plot that is already slated in the second half 2026 government land sales, and it's going to be a much bigger plot, 610 units. So my advice to you is that if you really want to buy this area, if the timing makes sense to you, and if you're willing to wait, that plot, it's going to be more expensive, right? But if it's for own stay, buying a larger plot, 610 units, definitely you will get probably better layouts, better facilities, and it will definitely help you in the long run when it comes to your exit plan. We've covered a good range from boutiques to value buys, but on to the one that I teased right at the start. This is one of the 2 projects that I'm looking to buy myself this year. This is none other than Thomson Reserve. And why I have to disclose upfront that I might be a bit more personally attached to Thomson Reserve and also Truong Grove is because I used to grow up in these 2 areas. And because of that, my primary school Pei Chin is nearby. I have a kid now, and my decision for my next property also hinges a lot on that, and I have to buy a property that is in close proximity to the primary school. So my situation might not be similar to yours, but trust me that for the analysis, this is a purely objective one. I'll be sharing with you the pros and cons of Thomson Reserve. Because I'm potentially going to buy this, I've done a lot of deep research over here. So quick glimpse over here, fact sheet. RCR mega development with MRT, this is the only one. Thomson Reserve, 1,240 units, and developed by the reputable trio of UOL, Singapore Land and Capital Land. You're just about 500 meters away from Upper Thomson MRT, although if you're on the left-hand side of the development, it's going to be a longer walk. And we are within 1 km of the very popular Ai Tong School. So the developer paid an extremely fantastic price, $1,178 per square feet on block. But as always, and I've shared multiple times, proven by the data as well, that a developer buying the land cheap does not mean that they will sell you cheap. And I'm expecting prices to average around $2,800, $2,900 per square feet. Thomson Reserve would be the largest development in the entire area. This will be the largest D20 launch since Jadescape. If you take a look at the draft site plan over here, with size, it gives you a lot of benefits. You will see full facilities, tennis courts, you got multiple pools, clubhouse. And because you got a lot of units, you will spread the maintenance fee, so lower maintenance fee per unit, a lot of better facilities, more landscaping. You have probably a wider variety of layout. All these points are key because it adds to the livability of the development. And fun fact, because I serve a lot of resale buyers looking at the properties in the area as well, the 3 newest resale properties over there, which is Thomson Impressions, Thomson Grand and Thomson Free, all the 3 only one. Thomson Impression is the only one that right now has a tennis court. There is also an upcoming government land sales at Lorong Putong. This is directly opposite Ai Tong School, but it's very tiny, only 140 units. And by the time it launches, it's going to be about 4th quarter of next year, 2027. So these newer plots, and I think the existing resale I shared, they are not competition for Thomson Reserve. Thomson Reserve is definitely going to be the one that is in its league of its own. What I've done over here is look at all the 99-year leasehold properties within 1 km of Aitong, and we can learn a lot about the returns over here. Now, across the board, very impressive annualized returns, but if you look closely, you will realize a few things. Now, firstly, 3 bedrooms, quite obvious, always the good and best performance overall. Interestingly, the 4 bedrooms at Thomson 3 and Thomson Grand actually underperformed even the 2 bedrooms in their respective development. And that's because if you take a look at the units over there, the 4 bedroom layouts are pretty bad. Secondly, because of that, there's a significant lack of supply of large units, 4 bedroom units in the area. If you see Thomson Impressions, you don't even have a 4 bedroom. The 3 bedrooms very profitable, 5.5% annualized returns. But see how that lack of supply has benefited the 2 developments that have good 4 bedroom layouts, and that is Gardens at Bishan and Bishan Park Condo. They have performed very well. 4 bedroom returns 7.3+%, 5+%. Thirdly, the 2 bedrooms in the area has also performed very well, 4 to 6% even of annualized returns. And this has been proven in my analysis of over 500 condos once again that 2 bedrooms can be very profitable. The key is to buy a 2 bedroom in a very own stay centric development that has good 3 and 4 bedrooms. Hence, I think that Thomson Reserve, even if your budget is maybe a little limited, getting a 2 bedroom there is still a good investment. But of course, if the budget allows to get a 3 bedroom, and the key value opportunity right now would be the 4 bedrooms because there is a massive lack of supply of good 4 bedroom units in the area. In short, you can probably guess where this is going in terms of the quality, location, the upside, all ticks. Exit, I think, is the strongest point over here. You have very strong organic demand and there's a significant undersupply of good larger units of the 3 and 4 bedrooms. So no real negatives that I have to really point out. Maybe the only negative is you just have to be a bit more selective when it comes to the facing. The road might be a bit noisy, so the lower floors facing the road ones might not be the best choice. Of course, it comes with a price as well. But all in all, Thomson Reserve is one of my top picks of 2026 and it gets an S rank. Since I'm buying this myself, I'll be doing a lot of deep research. What I just shared with you is just a teaser, a slight brief analysis of Thomson Reserve. So if you're interested to find out stack by stack my price estimates and my walkaway price, for every new launch, I do something called the launch day game plan, where I advise clients very objectively, even before you enter the queue, what are the right units to look out for. And as an aside, I shared that I used to grow up in Bishan. My most recent transaction was actually just last month. I bought a bio over there, we looked at the resale, and there was a real struggle because they needed a very big place. They are targeting 1 km to Aitong. End up, they couldn't wait for Thomson Reserve to be completed in time for school registration, and they bought Flame Tree Park instead. So the high demand and low supply situation over there is very, very real. If you want to have a very real chat about what are some of the options that you should look at, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp, and I'll be guiding you through the entire process. So that's my ranking for the upcoming 5 launches in 2026, and here's the second half list again. The 4 condos I haven't really detailed in the 4th quarter plays are, for example, Chuan Grove, Upper Thomson Road A and Dorset Road, because honestly there's no news out there right now. In fact, at the current rate that we're going, some of them might not even make it for a launch this year. It might even launch in the 1st quarter next year. There's also 3 ECs coming up that has been reshaped by a major rule change, something that I thought that I should really share with you in this video. This is the biggest rule change to EC since I think 2013. There are 3 key changes. You can pause this slide to zoom into the key differences, but let's go through the TLDR. Now the first is that minimum occupation period instead of 5 years is now 10 years. So very similar to your HDB BTOs, your Prime and Plus scheme. The second is that the deferred payment scheme has been removed entirely, which is huge because based on the last 2 ECs launched, over 75% of buyers actually use deferred payment scheme. And the third thing is that the first timer allocation, it has risen from 70% to 90%, while second timers then drop to 10%, and second timers can only buy 2 years after the project has been launched. So the goal of the new measure is very, very clear. The government is prioritizing first-time buyers, and they're also concerned about rising prices. This new ruling might be bad news for future EC buyers, but it is an opportunity if you are an EC buyer today and you haven't breached the income ceiling, because this definitely enhances the appeal of some of the upcoming ECs that have not fallen under the rule, and that's for that reason why Woodlands Drive EC, I've upgraded it, and all the other ECs I've also bumped up the rank by 1 tier. This is also another good example that in Singapore, property waits for no man. Once an opportunity has come, it has gone. Sometimes it is even hard to rewind the clock because the rules have changed. You can't even probably buy an EC. So if you want to really look at what are the options available to you today, I'll be able to share with you the options from buying a BTO, HDB resale, private condo, EC, be it new or resale. Ultimately, we want to weigh the pros and cons and just share with you non-obligatory what are some of the options that you can actually take today instead of kicking the can down the road. So if you're interested to find out more, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. I'll be happy to share more with you. Pulling all this together, here's the full ranking board one more time. And you can use this, of course, as a shortlist map, but don't just take it and run with it because ultimately this reflects the quality of the development, but it hasn't really factored in entry price and your exit, which ultimately are the key things that will affect your profit down the road. And if you take a look at this chart visually, you see how much more clustered, a lot more new launches are clustered towards the second half of 2026 compared to the first half. So I think that this is exactly what I meant by the window of opportunity. Right now, you have kind of soft macroeconomic environment. You have 12 launches competing with one another. Developers are fighting for buyers and prices are growing at a more steady, measured pace. You don't have to keep fighting and chasing that rapidly rising prices that you saw maybe back in 2021 and 2022. So you can be very selective, but more importantly is to always have a plan A and a plan B. And I'm genuinely curious what you think. Out of the 12 launches, do you agree with my ranking? Between Amberwood and Dunearn House, which one will you actually buy? Or if you are an Eastie, will you actually consider buying Lucerne Grand? So you can drop your comments down below. I read every single one of them, and it's also a very good way I can find out what's the next project deep dive I should do for you guys. And one last bonus before we wrap, and this is again something very close to heart because personally I'm looking at Trunk Grove, and there is a new reserve site at Trunk Grove. And this is exactly the kind of thing that we want with new future supply. Entering now gives us the opportunity to kind of ride the higher prices in the future. I'll be sharing in my upcoming videos my own property journey and considerations behind my next purchase. So do subscribe to the channel to have a look at how I do deep research and homework about my own purchase. And with that, we've come to almost the end of the video. Let's take a final look at some of the upcoming launches in the first half of 2027. And a few does excite me. Hougang Central, for example, it gets an S rank, and there's also a second Woodlands Drive EC, easily gets an S rank again because of the rule change. There's also more RCR plots coming up compared to the second half of this year. So you got Telok Blangah, Tanjong Rhu, and Kallang Avenue. They all get about an A+. And on the other spectrum, another dairy farm walk, it will get a C from me, again because of the lack of connectivity, increased competition, and low demand. So that's the full second half 2026 ultimate guide to new launches update. Two things that you can do right now. The first, if you want to receive the full deck of my ultimate guide to new launches, you can of course fill up the Google form link below, and I'll be happy to send the PDF to you. And if you're already ready and looking to buy something, we can dive deeper into specific projects. I'll put them side by side, share with you their pros and cons, lay out the options available to you, and I'll be with you every step of the way of the property journey, all the way into the queue at launch day, telling you what are the stacks to buy and what is the walkaway price. You can reach out to me on WhatsApp and we can start a conversation from there. And with that, I've come to the end of the video. Thank you so much for staying to the end, and I'll see you in the next video.